Welcome back, everybody. My name is Taylor Martin. This is the best Damn EDC, and today I have something new for you, something brand new. I actually teased this over on the weekly last week. These two things right here are brand new. They're actually not launched yet. The Kickstarter launches today, but today, it's all about Tactile Turn, and these are the pins that he makes, very popular pins. He has bolt action, he has click pins, and now a knife, a bolt action knife, which is the first of its kind. He actually has a patent pending for the mechanism for this. It's really nice. The mechanics and the action on this are really, really sweet. But I'm gonna tell you all about it and how you can help bring this to life. So with that said, let's do the thing. Yesterday was a horribly frustrating day. I've got a lot of things going on, and specifically at the office, and I was frustrated. I totally forgot I have one of these to give away. So the titanium version of the slider from Tactile Turn is actually up for grabs, and if you want to win one, comment down below. Pick a random number between 2,000 and 3,000. I will choose a random number as the winning number, and whoever guesses that number or gets the closest first wins this. I'll send it to you in the mail. So here we are with Tactile Turn pins, and actually now the knife, the BAK or bolt action knife. But first let's talk about pins, because pins is what Tactile Turn is known for. In fact, they were the first fully machined pin manufacturers, and everything on this table is made in the USA. They're based in Texas, and most of the parts of these pins, and I believe the BAK, are made in-house at their factory or their warehouse in Texas. But the things that they don't make there are also made in America. On their website, they say, "We don't do injection molded parts like most other pins. We make parts one by one on our computer, numerically controlled lathes in our own shop in Texas. We buy the best equipment available, the best materials available, and turn raw materials into finished goods. We never skimp on quality, as everything we make is designed to be an heirloom quality item. We want you to pass these on to your children." People buy Tactile Turn pins because they want an item with simple and elegant designs made from amazing materials that will withstand daily use for life. And I believe it, honestly. I've been carrying this pin right here, the glider in copper, for about a week straight. Off and on, I've been rotating in other pins just because I always do that, but the pin I've been using the most over the last week is the glider in copper. But the more I use it, the better it looks, the more I like it. This thing is awesome. But of the pins here, this one right here has to be my favorite, but we'll get to that. We're gonna start with these pins to the left, or my left, and these are the shaker pins. So here we are with the two shaker models I have. The mover is pretty much the exact same pin, but it's 5.5 inches long versus the 5 inches of the shaker. So that's really your main difference, other than the inserts or the ink refills that will fit in them. They do differ, and they do have a list of which inserts fit which pins. And of course, you could hack some of the inserts to fit different pins, but for the most part, other than the length on the shaker and mover, your big difference is gonna be which inserts or refills fit those pins. And the shaker, the smaller of the two, is actually gonna come with a Schmidt EasyFlow 9000M insert. That's the same for the smaller pin over on the slider and glider. The Schmidt EasyFlow is going to be in the smaller pin, and then the larger pin, the mover, the one I don't have on hand, is going to have a Pilot G2 insert inside it. We have two different colors here. This one is actually titanium, and this one is an aluminum. I believe it is anodized, and it's colored orange. Really, really bright coloring, and it looks nice. It's just a hair lighter than the titanium version, but both of these pins are effectively the same other than the materials they're made out of and the color. So we're only going to talk about one for now. So the mover and shaker pins are standard click pins. They don't have your typical clicky sound, but they have this interesting, I don't know how to explain it. So the click mechanism on this pin is actually all titanium. And you can see right there, these are the grooves that make that action work. So when it rotates a little bit, it will actually lock in place. That's what locks the pin out in the advanced position. And click again, it rotates and releases. So pretty clever design there. You can remove the clip, do that same thing if you twist this off if you wanted, but you're gonna have a little bit of a gap there. Probably not a good look. So these mover and shaker pins come in stainless, titanium, brass, copper, and aluminum. And the aluminum versions are the ones that you can get anodized with these different colors. You're actually looking at about $69 to about $100 depending on which finish you get or which material you get. These, the anodized pins, are gonna be $69. While the titanium is going to be the more expensive, up to $99. But there are special versions of these pins, such as a DLC coated titanium shaker pin. That one's $179, and it will look like this, but be finished like this one right here. This is DLC coated titanium. And then there's also a zirconium pin in the shaker mover, and those are $249. So these can get pricey if you really want something really nice like this DLC coated in a shaker or mover pin. The diameter on these is 0.43 inches or 10.9 millimeters. The mover length, which is the one I don't have, is 5.5 inches long. That's 13.97 centimeters. And the weight is between 0.9 and 1.9 ounces, or 25.5 grams and 53.86 grams. But the shaker length is only 5 inches or 12.7 centimeters, and the weight is 0.9 to 1.8 ounces or 25.5 grams to 51.03 grams. Something to note about Tactile Turn before we go any further is where Tactile Turn got its name. So they're turning pins, obviously, so turning pins, but tactile, you've got this, it's this feeling on the pin, the way it's actually machined. You can hear this maybe you can hear it. So the way it's machined, all of these are going to do that. The BAKs, the slider, and the glider. And quite frankly, I like that. But one thing to note about the way this finish is, it's going to cover a lot of the scratches and blemishes on the pin. So like most things, it will look better as it ages, it gets used and gets scratches on it. But this will also give it a pretty unique look because this is not your standard finish. It's got those ridges on it, which one give it a really unique feel, but also a really unique look. But when it comes to the shakers, I have to say that of the things that he sent me, the shakers are not my favorite, because this pin right here has really been my favorite click pin. And it's just the mechanism that's inside. This one also has an all titanium mechanism, but it's just the sound is, I think, the biggest thing that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. I like the pin, I like the way it feels, I like the way it looks, but the click mechanism is just the sound. I can't get past the sound. There's no way to really quietly click this pin. Even if you slow it down, it's always gonna make a noise. And with this one, while you can make it audible, you can make it also pretty much silent. So here's the TI Click EDC next to the shaker. Of course, you can make the Click EDC a little taller if you put a bigger insert in it. It will go to about here. So you could probably make this about the size of the mover. Here's another Big Idea Design pin. This is the TI Pocket Pro EDC, another one of my absolute favorite pins. As you can see, it is significantly longer than that pin. And another favorite in the EDC world, the Fisher Space Pin Bullet. So as you can see, it's quite a bit longer than when it's nested, but when you flip it out, they're actually about the same size. The Fisher Space Pin Bullet is just a little bit longer. And I've got one more pin here to compare with. Another favorite in the EDC world, especially on the budget end, the Zebra F301, and they're actually almost identical in length. The Zebra is just a hair longer. But there you have it. These are the shakers from Tactile Turn. We have the anodized in orange and the titanium. Next up is actually a first for me. Before now, I'd not actually owned or used a bolt action pin. I'd seen a lot of them. I'd just about bought one myself. But boy, are bolt action pins really addictive to use and just fiddle with. They've got a magnificent fiddle factor. And I have to say, of these two, this is the slider and the glider. The slider is the smaller one, glider is the bigger one. I have to say that the glider has a better action. One, you've got this copper and it's a little heftier and it just feels a little more substantial in the hand, but you've also got a stronger spring in the glider. And I was actually talking with Will, and he actually plans to upgrade the spring inside the slider because it is just a little bit of a weaker spring. It still functions just fine, the action's great, but this one is just snappier. I don't know if you can hear the difference. Let's see if you can. Like, obviously they're gonna sound different because they're different sizes, but this one is it's just got a little more tension to it. Like I said before, the inserts are gonna be the bigger difference. They're basically the exact same pin other than your length and what inserts go inside. So inside this one is a Pilot G2 pin insert. And then again, in the smaller version, you're gonna have the Schmidt Easy Flow 9000M inside the slider. These two pins are gonna come in at the same diameter, that's 0.43 inches or 10.9 millimeters. The glider length is actually 5.6 inches, so this one is longer than the mover, and that's 14.22 centimeters. The weight is going to be 1.3 to 2.3 ounces, or 36.9 to 65.2 grams. And this one right here is pretty hefty, the copper version. Actually, the guys I am in this office with were holding this earlier, and they were like, wow, that's a really heavy pen. And it is. It definitely is. And this one is actually really lightweight. But the slider length is actually 5.1 inches or 12.95 centimeters. The weight is 1.2 to 2.2 ounces or 34 to 62.4 grams. And I just have to say, this is also the same for the mover and shakers. The way these things are machined is just amazing. So you can screw this cap off. I believe these have Loctite on them, so they won't come undone, because you don't really need to undo the top here unless you want to remove the clip. But the way you replace these inserts, I showed it with the other just a minute ago, but you just twist this and it will come undone. But look how precise the milling is. You can't even tell, if you're not looking for it, you can't tell where to change these inserts. Not at a glance. In fact, I was looking over this and I was trying to twist off the cap over here, trying to twist off the bolt and try to figure out how to swap out the insert. And Will said, just twist off the cap, which I didn't even try. I didn't even think to try, because you can't tell. You don't even know it's there, but give it a little twist and it reveals itself. So the precision on these is incredible, but they feel great in the hand. The action is phenomenal. These come in stainless, titanium, brass, copper, zirconium, and Damascus, which Damascus is out of stock. So when it comes to these pens, the anodized version, so the aluminum version with all the colors, which come in blue, red, purple, orange, black, pink, green, all those colors, they're gonna start at $59. The brass will also set you back $59, but the copper version is actually $69 and the titanium is $79. So these actually are cheaper than the mover and shaker pins, which may come as a surprise to some of you. And I think it's mainly because the titanium, the all titanium action in these is probably a little more difficult to create, but your bolt action, in my opinion, is a lot more fun to play with. It just is. But the other thing to note is that both of these, they do come in titanium, and you can also get the DLC coated titanium. So it's this black coating for your titanium. And for both pens, it's gonna be $159 if you want that. Zirconium in these pens is actually sold out in both models right now. And I imagine it would be somewhere in the ballpark of the other. So the mover and shaker zirconium is $250. I imagine it would be right under that price point, since these are all about $20 cheaper than all the mover and shakers. So I imagine the zirconium version is also just about 20 bucks underneath that. But I don't know. It's not in stock and there's no way for me to check right now. But these right here, you've got the glider and slider pins from Tactile Turn. And again, like I said at the beginning, this right here, the copper version of the glider, is my favorite pen that he sent me by far. And here we are with what you really wanted to see, the bolt action knife from Tactile Turn. So he sent me this copper one first, and it had a pre-production blade in it, and he said it was just a hair too thin. It was thinner than it was supposed to be. And I tried to sharpen it up a little bit, and to be completely honest, I did a hack job of sharpening this thing, and it looks bad. And I'm not gonna open this for you. So we're gonna actually sit the copper version off to the side. But I will say before I do that this thing looks great. I carried it for a couple of days, and just a couple of days of patina on this thing, and it looks awesome. And it's just only going to look better and better as you use it and carry it more. And as that copper patinas, this thing is going to look sick. I actually prefer the look of it over the DLC coated titanium, but the blade inside this one is not the best shape, and that's totally my fault, not Will's. So we're moving that one over to the side. I feel really bad about that, but here we are with the DLC coated titanium one, right? This one is the more expensive version. We'll get to the prices in a second, but this is DLC coated titanium. If you push on this bolt, you will advance the blade, and then you have to rotate it as you do with any bolt action, and then it locks into place. The spring pushes this back, and you have a locked blade. It is not going anywhere unless you push this up and over, and when you do, it retracts fast. Look at this. That is so fast. The action on this is so nice, and I think, as far as I know, this is the first of its kind, a bolt action knife. Honestly, I really like the idea of this, and it's very inconspicuous. If this is in a shirt pocket or something, or even in your pocket, most people, 10 times out of 10 are gonna think this is a pen. And even when you pull it out, they're not gonna know that it's a knife until you extend that blade and lock it in place. Really neat concept. Honestly, when it comes down to it, the one thing I wish that were different about this, and I think he did it for safety reasons, I wish the blade were a little bit bigger. I honestly do, You're getting about the size of a craft blade here, a little smaller, but much stouter. It's a much thicker stock than like an X-Acto blade. Obviously, it's not an X-Acto blade. It is much stronger than that. This will be great for EDC. Most of your cutting tasks don't need a massive blade, but you're not gonna get a ton of penetration if you need to cut deep into something. But most of your use cases for this knife, the way it really feels like it wants to be used is like an X-Acto blade. You're gonna have that pin grip and be cutting like this as a utility knife. I could see myself using this for leather work or paracord work or anything like that on a cutting mat. This thing would be great. But also, I don't think I have any issue with this as an EDC blade. This would be literally, it would tear through boxes like they're nothing. So really neat idea, great concept. We're gonna talk prices. These come in brass, copper, titanium, and this DLC coated titanium. And the bolt, you've got that DLC coated bolt. These, I believe, will also come uncoated. I'm not sure. I saw some blades that were not coated on his Instagram earlier today even. The bolts you can actually get in Damascus or Timascus. We'll talk about prices on that too. So for the Kickstarter, which launches today, you're gonna get a discount on some of these prices. So for brass, the Kickstarter price is gonna be $79. MSRP on that is $99. Copper, this one right here, is $89 for the Kickstarter, or $119 MSRP. The titanium is $99, MSRP on that is $139. DLC coated titanium, so this one is $179 during the Kickstarter, and after MSRP is going to be $239. And your Damascus bolt is $15 during the Kickstarter, $20 MSRP, and the Timascus bolt is $20 or $25 MSRP. And the blade that you get on this is D2 steel, so this whole thing is all D2. This is one piece for the blade. The bolt actually screws out of there, so you can replace the bolt if you want. So you can pull that out and pull this whole knife mechanism out, which is really, really great. This whole piece is D2 steel, and on this edge, you're actually getting two different kinds of grinds. It's a combo grind. You have a Tanto blade with a chisel grind. So on the Tanto, you've got a dual bevel coming to a point. On this side, you've actually just got the chisel grind and a flat edge on the back. So it's actually a pretty interesting knife to have to sharpen. You have pretty non-standard angles, but if you can get the angles correct on all of these, it's pretty easy to sharpen. But the thing is, you can, if you want, you can take this bolt out and take this whole thing out and sharpen it that way. But the way I sharpened it, and I didn't really have a hard time actually sharpening it, but the way I sharpened it is I actually have a Work Sharp field sharpener. I took the diamond plate off and actually used that. I held that in my hand and put it right up against the body and sharpened that way, and then sharpen, and it actually went pretty easily. I just really mostly mucked up the coating on it, and it wasn't good for photos. I'm gonna feel bad about that one for a while, to be honest. So on the website for the BAK, or the bolt action knife, it says the blades for the entire internal mechanism is one part. One solid piece means that it is going to be strong and simple so that it will be reliable. I initially started designing this around a hobby style blade like an X-Acto blade, but I decided that what makes a knife cool is the blade, and hobby style blades aren't very robust. Very true. We used D2 tool steel for these blades and hardened them to Rockwell 60C. D2 is extremely corrosion resistant, so you don't have to worry about the rust. It's also extremely tough, so it will do well no matter how hard you are on your knives. These are ground by hand. We take the blades from our Swiss style lathe that rough profiles the blade shape over to a grinder and grind these by hand. I'd love to get a CNC grinder, but until we can prove that this is something that can support one of those extremely expensive machines, we'll be doing this by hand. I did contact several companies with CNC grinding equipment, and none of them wanted to take on the size of the blade. The blade is a Tanto style grind with a chisel grind. That means the belly of the blade has a flat side where the other has an actual edge ground into it. This will make resharpening easy to get back to an ultra sharp edge. So these are ground by hand, but he did say that they're working on a jig so that they'll be much easier to get exactly the same every single time. There you have it. This is the BAK. Really excited to see how this does. If you want one yourself, go over to Kickstarter. That campaign starts today, and go over there, back this thing. I think it's a really, really great idea. I love this copper one, and man, I just want to swap these blades out. I know the DLC coated titanium is the more expensive one, but I'm a sucker for copper, man. You guys know that. And there you have it. That's the BAK from Tactile Turn. That is going to do it for this video. If you found it helpful and you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button down below and subscribe to see more stuff like this in the future. And if you want to be notified when I upload new videos, hit that notification bell. If you want to support what I'm doing here or support Tactile Turn, hit those links down below. If you go to the Kickstarter and back this, you're helping bring a new product to life. But also, he has really, really nice pins that you can buy as well. I have included a few other things, like some of the other stuff I mentioned in this video down below. Those are affiliate links. So if you want to support what I'm doing, you can purchase those things as well. Or you can go to patreon.com/bestdamnedc. Be sure to follow us around the web. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at bestdamnedc. You can find me, Taylor Martin, on Twitter and Instagram at CasperTech. And until next time, carry on.